Yeah, exactly. You are very correct. I just sharing. I went to Nepal actually on a 2 week trip.
Ah, nice.
That is a thing. That is one reason. Another thing also like that. But both the things I was away from computer and network. That was the main issue.
Oh, okay.
Sure, ma'am.
So, hello everybody. So today we are discussing The Siege by Helen Dunmore. Let me share screen and start with the... Okay. So this is the 27th book club discussion. And today I just thought, we will stick to more of the factually whatever is there when we talk about the history. So, and we'll try to keep it, I didn't want to discuss anything which is gory or anything about the cannibalism and other things which have been mentioned in some places. It also felt a little bit, a little disrespectful for all those who suffered. And so we'll just stick to the other parts of it is what I was thinking of for today's discussion. And we'll see a little bit about the author, her awards and recognition, about the siege, and about the actual, about the book Siege, and also about the actual siege of Leningrad, and what was the praise the book received, a little bit about the themes and discussion points and quotes. So Helen Dunmore is a British author. She's also a poet, a novelist. She has a collection of poetry too. She's a short story writer, and she's also written many books for children. She's a fellow of the Royal Society of Literature, and some of her children's books, in fact, are quite famous, and they are included in the reading schemes for use in the schools in UK. Her husband is a lawyer, and she has a son, daughter, and a stepson, and she actually had 3 grandchildren at the time of her death. So she has received very many prizes, awards, and recognitions for her novels. In fact, The Betrayal, which is the sequel to The Siege, has also been longlisted for the Man Booker Prize. After her passing away, she was also given the Costa Book Awards Poetry and Book of the Year award for her poetry collection, which is called Inside the Wave. So The Siege was written in 2001. It was published by Viking. It's set in Leningrad just before and during the siege of Leningrad by the German forces in World War II. The book was shortlisted for the Orange Prize in 2002 and for the 2001 Whitbread Prize. The Siege is the first of a 2-book series. The second, The Betrayal, was published in 2010, and it's also set in Leningrad, but later in 1952. So The Guardian ranked The Siege as number 92 in its list of 100 best books of the 21st century. I came across this little, review in the New York Times about The Siege, and I thought the words written by the reviewer were so beautifully and so perfectly, relatable to what I felt. So it is an act of literary audacity to set a novel during the siege of Leningrad, more so if you are a British writer born more than a decade after that siege began. How can Helen Dunmore presume to understand the confusion and terror and pain that descended on the city in 1941, a nightmare so distant from the daily experience of her readers and herself? How is she able to convey the strange power of the city once and now again, known as St. Petersburg, with its crushingly magnificent buildings, its beauty built on bones? After the first few pages of Dunmore's 7th novel, questions like these become irrelevant. The best historical fiction delivers emotional truth through the lives of imaginary but ordinary people making it possible to feel the texture of events that have been smoothed out by the generalizations of conventional histories. In Siege, the specific becomes epic as 5 people huddle in one freezing room, and Dunmore describes what is happening to them in language that is elegantly, starkly beautiful. Without a trace of sentimentality, Dunmore manages to sound a fierce note of humanism that relieves the relentless grimness. Starvation overwhelms the paranoia produced by Stalin's purges. No one has energy to spare for such mutually agreed upon Soviet fictions as life has become better, comrades. Life has become more cheerful. Words are regaining their meanings after years of masquerade. Anna realizes hunger means hunger, terror means terror, enemy means enemy. Anna's solidity and vitality are worth more than any political pedigree. The Siege is both quieter and more powerful than her earlier work. There is no need here to manufacture fear. History is frightening enough. I think this previous slide, what they say about, without a trace of sentimentality. This is something I felt really stood out for me when I read the book. Did others feel it too? It doesn't, you don't have scenes of tears and, no sentimentality just for the sake of it or something like that, that grimness is there, but I think a very different way of writing.
I think an example of show not tell.
Yeah, possibly even that scene where the baby next door dies and the mother is with the baby. Yeah, so there's no, just the seeing it is enough to, kind of choke you and make you feel so much. But in her words, she doesn't bring that out. She doesn't show people crying or all those things, in just the drawing where Anna makes the drawing of a healthy and a happy baby or of a different time, though that's not what is there. I think so much of that emotion we could see and feel in that. I think she's really done a fantastic job of that.
Very correct. And
Yeah.
she doesn't fill the words with the emotions.
Correct.
There are factual things for the reader to feel them.
Yeah.
He doesn't communicate. She only presents a fact, and
Right.
that reading that fact in her
Yeah.
own words, in precise poetic language, hurts the other fellow. He gets emotionally upset. That's
Correct.
what I found.
Very true. So a little bit of the history of the siege of Leningrad. It was a prolonged military blockade undertaken by the Axis powers against the Soviet city of Leningrad, present-day St. Petersburg, on the eastern front of World War II. So this is the map of where Leningrad was situated. So Germany's army group north advanced from the south, while the German allied Finnish army invaded from the north and completed the ring around the city. It began on 8th September 1941, and when the Wehrmacht severed the last road to the city. Although Soviet forces managed to open a narrow land corridor to the city on 18th January 1943, the Red Army did not lift the siege until 27th January 1944, 872 days after it began. The blockade became one of the longest and most destructive sieges in history, and it was possibly the costliest siege in history due to the number of casualties which were suffered throughout its duration. While not classed as a war crime at the time, in the 21st century, some historians have classified it as a genocide due to the systematic starvation and intentional destruction of the city's civilian population. So, why Leningrad? Why did they specifically choose this place? Leningrad's political status as the former capital of Russia and the symbolic capital of the Russian Revolution and Bolshevism, which was hated by the Nazi Party, the city's military importance as a main base of the Soviet Baltic fleet and its industrial strength, including its numerous arms factories, was another reason. In 1939, the city was responsible for about 11% of all Soviet industrial output. And they were so confident of capturing Leningrad that it has been said that Hitler had already printed invitations to the victory celebrations to be held in the city's Hotel Astoria. So it is clear that Hitler intended to utterly destroy the city and its population. According to a directive sent to Army Group North on 29 September, he says, after the defeat of Soviet Russia, there can be no interest in the continued existence of this large urban center. Following the city's encirclement, requests for surrender negotiations shall be denied, since the problem of relocating and feeding the population cannot and should not be solved by us. In this war for our very existence, we can have no interest in maintaining even a part of this very large urban population. So Hitler's ultimate plan was to raise Leningrad and give areas north of the river Neva to the Finns. That is Finland. So as we saw in the book, the two main things which happened was the extremely cold winters, and the second thing was the lack of supplies. So some of the things which they ate during this time was bread. So bread was initially one of the main staples, but slowly the bread became scarce.
Archana, your voice is breaking, or is it only me?
Oh
God.
What about others? Can you hear me, or is it breaking for you too?
I can hear okay.
No, I can also hear.
Okay, cool. It's me then. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay with him, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So bread was one of the main staples, but bread became so scarce, and they made from so many unusual ingredients such as sawdust, cotton seed, and even wallpaper paste. In fact, I read about even in the siege also, and I read one other book also about the siege, which is a non-fiction one about the siege of Leningrad. So they had even more things which they had mentioned about, like floor sweepings. So they would sweep the floor, and whatever was, whatever little bit of dust or something which they find over there, they felt that was edible. Then soup was another thing. So soup was another common food, and they made it from anything that they could find, including scraps of meat, bones, vegetables, roots, anything. Rats and cats, again, was the only source of protein which they had when other options were not available. Grass and tree bark. So they also ate grass and tree bark to fill their stomachs, and this had little nutritional value and also would create a lot of digestive problems. Frozen fish was one more thing. They were able to catch it from when the rivers and lakes around the city kind of froze. However, this was only during the initial time. After some time, once the siege progressed, even this became increasingly difficult. When we are talking about food and the difficulties of finding something to eat during a war, this Leningrad, while Leningrad was one extreme because they have absolutely no source of getting any food, but even otherwise during war-torn countries, it's so difficult to find food. So I want to stop the screen share, and Aaron wanted to share something about this from one of the books that he read.
Yeah, so there's a book called Vani. It's a graphic novel. It's about this Sri Lankan civil war. So when you progress through the story, you see that it's about two families. And as you progress, you can see how food becomes scarce. There is food, but there's very little food. So when you progress through the story, you see that in one of the families, there's only a little boy and his grandmother who are left. So the grandmother, what she has, she gives to the little boy, and then she goes to sleep. But then the small boy doesn't go to sleep. He's still very hungry. So, and he finds some plants nearby. So, and he tries one of the leaves. He likes it. So he has a lot more. But in the morning, when his grandmother wakes up, he sees that the boy has been poisoned from the leaves. And this goes to show that even if there was food, there's very little food. And war makes lots of problems. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Aru.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So coming back to this, even in Leningrad also, some of the things which they ate, like this grass and tree bark and things like that, would give them a lot of issues with digestion. And since they already were in a very weakened, we had weakened digestive systems and things, this also became another reason why many of them, fell sick, or, even some of them passed away too. Okay, so one thing which I felt, and was what did the Germans feel about what was happening, and how could they do this? So the thing was that the Nazi ideology is based on this Aryan supremacy. So it held that Germans were a superior race and the other races, especially Slavs, were inferior. So this ideology led to a belief that the Slavic population of Leningrad, whom the Germans considered to be subhuman, deserved to be treated with extreme cruelty. And they saw the siege of Leningrad as a crucial military objective, and they wanted to do anything which is possible to defeat Soviet Union. And one more thing was that, usually itself, the German forces had this way of retaliation which was really harsh. So they were known to engage in acts of retaliation against civilian populations in many places, in many situations. So this didn't feel something very different to them from what they've always been doing. And the main thing, but which made them feel it's okay to do this, was the dehumanization. They felt they were a superior race. According to them, the Slavs were not even humans, they were subhuman. So this campaign of dehumanization against the civilian population of Leningrad, which portrayed them as subhuman and deserving of harsh treatment, helped them, justify the cruelty that they were inflicting upon the people of the city. So some few stories of the human cost of this, there is so much I cannot include. I cannot include them all, I think, whatever I read. So, but I just wanted to share a little bit of things which I wanted to show you. Before that, let me just show one thing. My camera is not working, I guess. 1 minute. Yeah. So this is the non-fiction book that I read about Leningrad. It's called Leningrad State of Siege by Michael Jones. And so I tried to share a little bit of the stories which I found over there, which were quite interesting. I'll once again share the screen, and we can do that. Okay. So the first one is about Tanya Savicheva. She's a Russian child diarist, and her diary pages are still available, and they are on display at St. Petersburg in the Museum of Leningrad History. So she was a young girl of 11, And she used to leave these little notes in her diary. And each time someone passed away in her family, she would write down and mention that this person passed away on this date at this timing. So she has notes about starvation, deaths of her sister, grandmother, brother, uncle, another uncle, then her mother. And in fact, the last 3 notes say that Savichev's died. I think that was her uncle. Then she mentions everyone died. And then her last note is only Tanya is left. And later, but she was saved. She was rushed to the hospital, but she died of progressive dystrophy. So dystrophy is the, complete breakdown of the muscles and the body's defense system and everything, and which is mainly because of the prolonged starvation which they've been under. So she died shortly after the siege in the hospital. And in the Nuremberg trials, which were the trials against the Nazi war crimes, her diary was also used by the prosecution. Another interesting person in this is Elena Martilla. I think it's Martilla or it's Martia, I'm not sure. And so she was an art student. She was about 18 years of age. And one day her professor calls her and says that things are getting bad. And then he says, but someone must make a record of what is happening. Go out with a sketchbook and start drawing what you see. We must preserve this for humanity. Future generations must be warned of the absolute horror of war. And nearly all the paintings sketches and lithographs and everything, whatever she made during this period are still available, and they are still there to on display. So every single picture which she drew, she had a complete story about it and what happened. So like, for example, the first one is very evident. It's someone who has succumbed to the cold and hunger. The second one was about, someone who's a soldier. But she said that he looked like a little boy and he was so weak and tired. And the third one is about a typical home. And, there's a radio and there's a jug of water, and they had their basic little necessities around them, and that's all. And the last picture is a drawing she had made of this, of the bus which is carrying the supplies over the ice road. So the driver has everything shut because it's extremely cold. However, when he's crossing the ice road, he just opens one window and he keeps a head out, because anytime it may be shelled or the road may break, and there could be some danger to him. And in that situation, he would jump out of the window. So she's drawn that. And this was another very interesting situation when she draws this. So it's a self-portrait of her. And that day, she's extremely cold. There's no heat, no light, and she's freezing. It's about minus 30 degrees, and she's in pangs of hunger. She's not eaten anything. And she feels that the second I close my eyes, I'm not going to open my eyes because all strength has left my body. I don't think I'll not wake up. So this is going to be my last sleep. So at that time, she says that I don't want to die. I need to keep myself alive. And she decides, okay, I'll make a portrait of myself. And she draws. And then the next day, as soon as she wakes up, she's like, yes, I'm awake. I'm alive. And somehow she feels that making this portrait is what saved her from a definite death that night. So these are some photographs and some of paintings which I found from her. Sorry for the very bad, photography of the book. My scanner wasn't working, and the book was also very oddly bound, so that I couldn't really force it into the machine also. This is another painting which she made. So this concert was also a very famous thing where despite all the hunger and the cold, a couple of concerts were in fact held, one in Hotel Astoria also, for just making the wounded soldiers and people around them feel some kind of hope and joy. And so this is a moment which she captures through her sketches.
Hello, I can't see the screen.
Oh, why? Is it
I don't
for
know.
everyone or?
No, I can see it.
I can see it.
I can't see. So I'm just leaving. Then you can again
Yeah, sure.
join me. Yeah.
I'm able to see anyway.
Are you able to see now, Suchi?
Yeah. Now I can see. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to just quickly see the ones, a couple of ones we just passed by? This one.
Yeah.
So these are all sketches which are made by her. I think you've seen the ones before this, right? You already saw all this, Suchi?
No, my screen was not working for quite some time, but it's okay. You just
Okay.
carry on. I'll just. It's okay.
Send me your email ID. I can even mail it to you. So during the siege, some 3,200 residential buildings, 9,000 wooden houses were burned, and 840 factories and plants were destroyed in Leningrad and the suburbs. Historian Michael Walzer summarized that the siege of Leningrad killed more civilians than the bombing of Hamburg, Dresden, Hiroshima, and Nagasaki combined. The US Military Academy evaluated that Russian casualties during the siege were bigger than combined American and British casualties during the entire war. So there is this sign which is located near the western end of, it reads, citizens during artillery bombardment, this side of the street is especially dangerous. So this was something like a warning symbol which they had at that time. So they just, decided to keep it in memory of the people of Leningrad, and it remains. And every year they refresh the blue paint on this. So some of the themes which are explored over here, I think, are the war and politics. So the book provides an insight into the politics of the time and the impact of the war on the everyday lives of people. And it shows how propaganda was used to manipulate people's perceptions of the war and how the politics of the time affected the lives of people on the ground. And there was so much fear to speak against the government. And this is seen more in the sequel, The Betrayal. I'd like to invite Sarit to just talk a little bit about The Betrayal. I'll stop the screen share. He's been reading the book. I think he has a little more to finish. He's been having sleepless nights after reading the book.
Yeah, this is the book, the sequel to The Siege. This happens at a time after the war is over, maybe 5 years after the war is over. And Stalin is in command of the Soviet Union. The very unfortunate thing is that the civilian population of Leningrad has been through so much because of an external enemy during the siege. And later they have to endure the totalitarian government under Stalin. So it was an equally chilling read. I read Siege a couple of years back. This one is an equally chilling read and very engaging. You know, just before going to bed, I read some part of it and I couldn't sleep for half of the night. So I have decided now not to read it during bedtime.
Yeah. And Tulika or Suchi, anyone tried to read the sequel?
No, I
No,
haven't.
Oh, okay.
I just finished it like 2 days back.
Oh,
I thought
okay.
it was a small book, so I was reading it very comfortably, and then suddenly the date was there. So, but I did manage to finish it.
Oh, okay.
So
And to be
maybe I will.
honest, I haven't finished.
Oh, okay. So I finished some time back. In fact, I found it very, very gripping, and I finished it quickly. But I was so wanting to read The Betrayal. In fact, so
Yeah.
especially seeing Sarat's reaction, I was wanting to read it, but somehow I just did not find the time. And the non-fiction one also very interesting. So I shared a very few glimpses of the pictures alone. But the actual story of how Elena goes around and how she does the drawings and how she meets these various different kinds of people is all very, very interestingly told. And it's not just Elena's. Elena's sketchbook is just one chapter. So again, another about some 10 chapters there in this about different people during the siege. So it's also a very, very interesting non-fiction read. But
The writer was Michael Jones. Did I get it right?
yes, Michael Jones.
Jones.
Yeah, Jones.
Thank you very much. Sir.
Yes.
Thank you. And to Aaron, actually, was the betrayal equally heart-wrenching, sir, since you completed it?
Yeah,
I
yes.
was asking Aaron, sir, since he said he has completed the reading of the sequel.
So actually the name is wrong. It's he's not changed it. It's Sarat. Sarat was talking
Yes,
about.
I was talking about it, sir. So,
you'll excuse me for having called you by a wrong name because that was not available there.
Yeah.
That is it, actually.
Yeah, so I
So
didn't
the
want
book
to
was
give out the plot, but it is the story of the same couple, Andre and Anna,
I read a
little later in their life.
Yes, I read a brief of that, a blurb, but they also continue to stay in that house actually together.
Yes.
That
So,
is it.
yeah, something very worth reading, since all of you have now read the first part of the story. Really engaging one.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll share the screen again. Okay. So the other theme was love, loss, and hope. And I think one of the good things about the book with Helen Dunmore was not, it was very heart-wrenching, it's very sad, but I felt there was a hopeful note all through the book, and that felt very nice. So the characters in the novel, they have to face their daily struggles for food, warmth, shelter, everything. But it also shows them trying to maintain their humanity and dignity. And that felt very hopeful and very nice way, I think, of approaching the whole thing. So the novel explores the various relationships that are formed and lost during the siege. They struggle with loss of family, friends, loved ones. But at the same time, you can see them trying to find hope and love amidst the chaos. The novel depicts the incredible strength and resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. The characters in the novel show incredible bravery and determination to survive and overcome the challenges they face during the siege. So, despite the death of her father and, the things which are really very upsetting about the book, but still I felt very good that it ended with a very, in a very hopeful way.
Thank you. Since you brought the word hope, may I intervene here, ma'am?
Yeah.
If you have correctly observed, it is Pushkin who has been referred often. Pushkin.
Correct.
The poet.
Yes.
It's 3-4 times, and Michael is his favorite. He holds his book even at the time of his death is of Shakespeare. And one of the lines of hope is, I shall not wholly die.
Mm.
That is a sentence actually from Pushkin, her father, Marina, and Fedyard, they used to discuss actually. At least they have been, Pushkin has been referred to by them. And this is a line of hope where he says, I shall not wholly die.
Yes.
That is it. This was what
Yeah.
I found about Pushkin. In addition to this, did you find anything extra? Why Pushkin stands referred to a number of times in the book? We all know that actually he is a great writer and a poet also. But how come actually he has been figured so many times with 3 or 4 important characters?
Yes. Is there any I thought it's because they are all seem to be very into literature, and but is there any other reason why Pushkin has been mentioned a lot?
Because Pushkin has written another book, Union or something like that. I could not lay my hands on that.
Mhm.
And in it, he describes actually that is Eugen Onegin. He is a fictional character who is the protagonist of Alexander Pushkin in his masterpiece, Eugen Onegin. He has written it in 1833.
Mm.
What they say is this particular character is the original superfluous man, a character type common in 19th century Russian literature. And what further they say is he is a disillusioned aristocrat who is drawn into tragic situations throughout his inability or unwillingness to take positive action to prevent them. If you read carefully, madam, actually, it is Michael, that is Anna's father, who says actually, I'm like Onegin.
Mm.
He gets identified with a fictional character written by our Pushkin. And he
Okay.
says, I was not, in the sense, he was a dissident writer. His work will not be accepted. He is not in a position to rectify his personal life, his literary life. He is rather a load on his daughter as Anna. He just lays like that. That could be one of the reasons, because he could not take any, what you call, positive action to prevent them, even knowing that. That is why I thought is one of the reasons why Pushkin figured there. I don't know.
Mm. I think that could be the reason then.
And your observation is also right. All these people read books.
Yeah.
That is there. There is a library read. Even that Marina also, she reads that.
Yes.
What is that? Stage actress actually.
Correct. Correct.
She's also a dissident, like Michael. That is one of the parallels between those two.
Yeah. True.
She only she leaves her big house and palace and comes and stays with Anna actually.
Mm.
That is the thing. So perhaps that is the reason. And there are 1 or 2 more characters from Russian literature. I could not lay my hands on them. We have to get them. Why those 2 or 3 Russian writers? Maybe they have name and has been brought into the book. That is what I was thinking.
Oh. So, okay, then the discussion topic which I wanted to speak about was about the social hierarchies which we can see here. So, money and politics also play a very vital role in the siege. So, initially, social hierarchies existed during the siege, with some people having more privileges than others. The novel explores how people from different backgrounds also come together to support each other during the siege. And it also shows how after a point, which is also mentioned in the non-fiction book, that after a point, money and riches mean completely nothing in the face of a disaster. And, so there was absolutely no value for money, and things like diamonds and gold and jewelry and very famous paintings, etc., were in fact exchanged for even 2 slices of bread. So that was what it was during the initial stages, at least. Afterwards, even that lost money. So even if you go and offer someone diamonds, he would still not give you 2 slices of bread in return. The sad part of it was that food distribution was very poorly organized, they say, because in this freezing cold, people were made to stand for hours to get their little bit of daily rations. this was completely unnecessary, and it was there was a lot of intrusive bureaucracy, and lot of effort was made into making sure that people behaved as per how they wanted them to, when that effort could have actually been directed towards making sure people get their food properly and easily, at least. So there's one more interesting incident in the book which is mentioned. So the sketchbook which I had spoken to you about of Elena. So Elena, what she does is she keeps walking around the city and seeing what's happening and sketching it out. So in that one of her street, one of the times when she goes out, she sees this place called Torrid Street. And the entire Torrid Street is bombarded so badly, and in the entire street, there's only some 8 buildings which are standing. Every single building has been aimed by Germans, and they have shelled it. So she's very surprised, because this is some ordinary place, some normal middle class locality, and why have they taken so much efforts to come and bombard this place? And that's when she sees that just near this Torrid Street there's another place, and in that place there's this Smolny Institute, and they had changed that Smolny Institute place into the place where they housed the headquarters of the city as administration. And just so that people should feel that that's just another normal neighborhood, they covered up the place. They dug up all the plants around the building. They wanted to make it look like just a normal, ordinary place with no gardens or nothing which looks good was there. So still at the same, they felt that despite doing all that camouflage also, there could still be some doubt that, Smolny Institute is probably, they may still know that approximately this is where the headquarters are. So just to, misdirect the people, this Torrid Street, which also had a couple of nice buildings and gardens and everything, was left intact. And it was, they planned not to camouflage it. They wanted to keep it as it is, so that when the aircrafts, they drop their bombs, they would be confused and they would drop it on Torrid Street, which is what happened. And many civilian lives were lost over there, obviously, because of all these, continuous bombardment of the street. While at the same time, the Smolny Institute was preserved, which kind of felt bad. They could have, I don't know whether it's, one way of seeing it probably might have been that if they are not there, then who's supposed to look after the city? They are there to look after the city, so they must be kept safe. But at the other way, it feels bad that you allow the people over there to die just because you want to safeguard yourself. So, before we see the quotes, maybe I'll just stop share, and in case anyone wants to share something, please do. Tulika, Suchi, Shamal Raoji.
No, I think you've covered pretty much everything that I wanted to say. I like that he never glorifies, she doesn't glorify I think it's largely because Anna is the way she is. She's so no nonsense. She, like, it's got to be done, so it's got to be done. And of course, the hardships are there, but it's never very stark, so to make it like unreadable. So I like that because of that tone of the book, you can still read it. It makes it it doesn't, you don't feel like, putting it down, while you are still made aware of the hardships they go through.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Like that.
And I also feel that it might be in normal fiction, something like, speaking about this happened, that happened in this situation is different. But here, when they've actually gone through that, there's also, I think, some kind of respect which you need to show to them, which I think she's done justice to that in the book.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
It's well written. It's
very.
I like the tone that she kept through, and there were sentences like, I knew she was a survivor. She would survive. So that kind of keeps giving you hope through the book that that she'll see it through. So
Correct,
to that
correct.
extent, yeah. I'm not sure I want to read the sequel if they had more trouble coming their way. I was very reassured that like they kind of tided over everything, and that's
Yeah,
sad to know that there's more trouble for them in store.
yeah, more trouble for entire Leningrad, in fact. So
Yeah, true.
it's
But
quite
for
sad.
me, it was a very painful and heart-wrenching read. It was very difficult.
Mm.
And if
Yeah.
you go through actually the very first words of the book, actually, that is 19 September 41, makes us appreciate that he is going to experience immense pain and suffering. Where
Mm.
actually the Führer has decided to have Leningrad wiped from the face of the earth. That is the opening
Yeah.
sentence.
Correct.
Right. Right.
That sets the tone of the book. Actually.
Mm.
Correct.
That's what I found. Of course, he had his own reasons to hit it. St. Petersburg, Leningrad, place of what I call importance and other things, Bolshevik revolution, etc., etc. But in this case, the punishment that he has imposed was, in other cases, if you happen to have read Holocaust books, the action was direct. In this case, the action is indirect and prolonged. Somewhere around 900 days, actually, as what I call seized, put the city under siege from
Mm.
1941 to December 44. And it was difficult. Two things that struck me, food and wood. Food was difficult, and since they want to ward off cold and have a comfortable steps, the wood was also not available.
Correct.
Food, wood, cold, somehow or other, these are time. Food, wood, cold, actually, these are the three things that she covered, and it's very painful for that matter. And the food that they have eaten, you have very wonderfully listed it. So Pavlov, that man who comes to control things here, is so inhuman. He lists out leather, restaurants. It is a very big list he lists out. These are the things that these people can eat. You add, if anything, I have left out, like that he gives away to his subordinate. That is definitely heart-wrenching. And another point, what I found was, Stalin's rule was also equally bad in the sense there is no dissent is allowed. They are put behind bars, like Michael, like Anna, like Marina. They are not allowed any freedom. Even post-siege also, I don't expect their life might have materially changed because they were still under the control of Stalin. Stalin, we know actually how he controls things. Marked much improvement. That's why I asked specifically to Aaron, was there any difference in that betrayal? Was there any marked improvement in life that they underwent before siege, during siege, and after siege, as per these two books that I wanted? Because as it is Russia, things are not okay. This Michael was making good living until the party decided that his stories are of no use. Similarly, with the famous actress Marina Petrovna, she said he can't do further because she has been publicly discredited her life. And then we also come across line actually these black vans that move around Leningrad. Anna says actually, at least this time my turn has not come, someone has gone. So those things are very bad even during that period also. I'm sorry, prior to that siege. And post siege, since you are referred to the betrayal, I have to make my mind. That's what I feel. But for me, all said and done, it's a difficult read and painful read, agonizing. That is what I would like to say.
Correct. True, true, true. Very, very true.
There's a bit when they say now that they are so confident that they will never run out of food because things would have already been bad because she says if we stand in a queue long enough, we'll get something to eat. That's what they were so used to those hardships, they never thought it could get worse or like how bad it could get. They're very confident, like they're so used to the hardships. So like if we stand in the queue, there'll always be food. Like it's difficult to get, but it's there. But then finally there comes a stage when there's just no food. So
Correct.
Nothing.
Because constantly they kept bombing, the city.
yeah.
And lot
They
of
bombed the
food
food
supplies.
stores. In the book, they bombed the food
Yeah,
the
they warm the food. Correct.
yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And you think in the last somewhere actually, Anna, the leather manicure case of her father she
Yeah.
picked up and she wants to cook food with it. How
Correct.
sad it can be.
That was
And
very,
definitely,
yeah,
if
that
you
is sad.
read the book seriously, your attitude and approach towards food will definitely change.
Correct.
You
Absolutely.
can't be that careless. You leave things, you throw things, you like this will not happen because food is so valuable, so valuable. Wallpaper paste they eat, leather articles they eat, domestic pets they eat, laboratory zoo animal sex, and they celebrate when at the end of the day they find some strawberry jam or something like. It was like a
Mm,
festival. Remember
mm.
now, I was so excited when Anna says go and find my felt boots or something like that. There are two jams, and that kid they
In a
give to
booth.
him.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
your approach or attitude towards food will definitely change if you read the book seriously. That's what I
Mm.
found. And
Correct.
with certain facilities, certain benefits we take for granted in our life.
Yeah,
But
right.
we visualize a situation when things go really worsen, really worsen. And she makes a broth from a leather school bag. That Anna, it's just, it is unimaginable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the stalk, and she gives the leather to her brother to chew on.
Chew on.
Yes, yes, because that will contain some protein, let him have it like that.
Yeah.
And when she finds an onion, look at the excitement and happiness that come across actually.
One fallen down onion she finds. Yeah, that's
That's what I feel actually. You can't look the food in the same way before you read the book and after completely reading the book. That's what I
Yeah.
felt.
yeah.
True.
The thing is actually, one more thing that I felt is that, we feel a lot of hope towards the end of the book because the winter has come to a close. But
Yeah.
the siege actually continued for 2 years more, so that is the timeline.
Yeah.
Maybe they handled the things, the authorities handled it much better during the next 2 winters. But still people had to endure it.
True.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And still, the shortages and all were going on only. And even after the ice road and that small way which they found also, again, those were getting bombed. So the buses, the lorries which used to carry foodstuff and which used to come, like I just showed in that picture, that was an actual drawing which Elena makes of a person who is driving the bus, but at the same time he has like his head out in the cold. Usually he's keeping everything covered, but only during crossing the road he keeps his head out because suddenly if they drop a bomb, he wants to jump out and save his life. So
and at the end, there is a Vyasa actually whose this truck breaks down. He gets stuck up in that blizzard of snow.
yeah,
Vyasa actually he dies. He will not be able to port these food items to this LENINGRAD. That was also painful.
correct.
And I can feel the temperature because in Nepal I went in and saw it is -2. Imagine what is -30. I am able to feel it physically. So cold.
I just can't imagine how.
Yeah, right. Even I can't imagine that kind of cold.
Yeah.
Something
I
else.
think I went up to 15 or something, 15 to 20 was there in London when I had visited, and it was horrible. It was the most worst thing I could have done. I got caught in the rain out and it was unimaginably cold and I kind of froze. The first thing I did was buy something hot and drink,
Yeah.
So to just imagine that they don't have that facility, they can't eat something or drink something. Like that is like the one thing which you can fight the cold against. And to not have that is really sad. -30 is really unimaginable.
Exactly. In certain paragraphs, you can feel the book.
Yeah.
You can feel it, not just read.
Yeah. I'll share some of the quotes which I saw.
Please.
They wanted spring. Of course, they wanted it more than anything. They longed for sun with every pore of their skin. But spring hurts. If spring can come, if things can be different, how can you bear what your existence has been? You know, that also felt, it felt such a loaded, sentence. That's what war means: blunders and muddle, and doing things without understanding why you're doing them. A long time later, if you're lucky, someone comes along and writes things down so that they make sense and calls his story history. Poetry doesn't exist to make life beautiful. Poetry is life itself.
Thank you. I was caught with this.
Yes. You know you're changing, but you still think you can find the way back to what you used to be. Then one day, you know you can't. This was my favorite. There's no use relying too much on a memory that's only set in stone. So whenever we speak, we say it's set in stone as if it's something that's permanent. And the way she says that no use relying too much on a memory that's only set in stone, when she talks about the stone memorial, which is set for the, the victims of the siege. Because she always says there's going to be someone else who knows if it's going to be there or if they just break it and throw it off. So it's only a memory which is set in stone. They stand close for a while, not touching, but breathing each other's breath. The city is silent now, as if for peace. Yeah, that's it. Yes. I hope you liked the presentation.
Yeah, it was good. I'm glad we picked the book.
Yeah, I'm really glad to. So I've been wanting to read it for a very long time. It's been at home, but I think I'm so glad that we read it.
We made a very good choice this time.
Yeah. I hope you all like the next book too, though it's a very light and quick read. In fact, The Fifth Child, right? We're doing The Fifth Child by Doris Lessing.
Right. Yeah.
I'll stop recording.